One of the reasons we had talked about webinars is because we understand the importance of prayer, and we also understand the importance of doing what we need to do. A lot of times as Christians, we just pray and we don't do enough when it comes to the physical activity, the physical parts, doing our own part of the thing. And because most of us were in our active years, whether you're doing a business, whether you're an employee, this is still going to be very, very relevant, because the way you do one work is the way you do other work. And so we've been doing a series of webinars, and that's why we have Pastor Ebu here today talking to us about how to thrive in the workplace. We're also going to have a couple of other webinars next week and upper week. I just wanted to, give that announcement. For those of us in the UK, we're going to be having the Global Talent Visa webinar next week, Saturday, because we know that a lot of Nigerians are moving now, and some people are finding it difficult to be able to get visas that will allow them to do the kind of work they want to do. And that's why we're bringing that up. And then the following Saturday, we have someone coming to talk to us about how to sponsor yourself as well in the United States, because we know that we're a diverse community and we're doing all of that. So please stay tuned. Thank you everyone for joining promptly. I'm going to keep quiet now and hand it over to Ibukun so that we can get started. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone, or maybe I should just say good day, since it's a diverse community. Welcome to today's webinar. Our speaker is already here, and I'll be bringing her up shortly. I'd like to please ask everyone to get your questions ready. The way this is going to run, we'll have Pastor Eben speak to us for a few minutes, and then we will transition into a Q&A session. So if you have questions, please just use the chat section. I'll be picking the questions from there. But for now, I am so excited to learn from Pastor Ebo, as someone who just started a new career myself recently. And so I'll be bringing her up right now to just share with us. And then when she's done, we will go straight into Q&A. It's so lovely to see you, Ma. And over to you, Ma.
Hi, BK. It's lovely to see you too. And thank you for having me. And Adejoke, thank you for this. Adejoke said a panel. And alas, this panel now is me. I'm here. But I'm really excited.
Other people couldn't show up, and I forgot to mention.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And I'm really excited to be here. You know, we're talking about thriving in the workplace, or thriving at work. And I just thought to start so that we're all on the same page. What does it really mean to thrive? What does thrive mean? So I just checked, and I have like the dictionary meaning. It says to prosper, to be fortunate, to be successful, to advance, to grow, to develop vigorously, to flourish, right? And that's what it means to thrive. Now, the thing about the workplace, and for most people, when you check the number of hours that we spend at work, it really does make up a very large percentage of our journey or our lifetime. And so it's important that we're not only at work, but that when we're at work, we're there with our full selves, and then we make a success of whatever it is that we're doing at work. And so the question we need to ask ourselves really about, am I thriving, is that when we look at that definition, are we really successful at what we're doing? Are we growing? Are we advancing? Are we flourishing? That's the question we need to really ask ourselves. And for many people, we can't really say that we're thriving when it's a chore to go to work, right? So when you have to put on a self to go to work, there's a challenge, right? Because if you're going to thrive, that means that you show up every time as your authentic self, and then find a way between, is that balance between this is my authentic self, and then this is how my authentic self can interact successfully in a work environment. So to the extent that we have to put on a facade, so to speak, or put on a self that is Ebunoluwa at work, different from who Ebunoluwa is, it would be difficult to thrive. That would be really tiring, right? Not to be able to go there every day and be authentic and just enjoy the process of integrating with everyone else and then being able to bring our authentic self to change the dynamics, you know, at work. I like to say every time when I'm anywhere or working anywhere, that the fact, and I think that is important also to bring the context of who we are, our identity, the fact that also we're children of God, right? So there has to be a marked difference between us and everyone else. And how will that happen? One, and we won't go into talking about identity, but then you can only show up as your authentic self when you know who you are. But I'll leave that for, you know, another discussion so that we can just focus on the conversation at hand. So we're not putting on someone else, we're showing up as ourselves. And so if we show up as ourselves, what are the critical things that I thought about it that are important to thrive? The first thing is, what messaging are you giving up? So in terms of communication, and I know we use all these buzzwords, strategic communication, all those kind of things. What are you communicating? How are you communicating? So there's a difference between being aggressive and being assertive, getting your point across. If we want to show up as our authentic self, it's important that we're able to express our thoughts. So if you're in a place where you're not able to get your message across as to, this is what I feel about something, these are my thoughts, this is what I feel will make a difference, are you able to share your opinion? Are you able to share it in a way that is clear, without being confrontational, without being, you know, so in a respectful, considerate manner, you're able to share, you know, what you bring to the table. That's important. So what are you giving up in terms of communication? And then also, will people say that you listen? Because for many of us, like when we're having the interactions, do they want to come to you to have a conversation because they know that you'll really hear what is being said? And we know that communication is two ways. It's not just what you say, it's what that person that you said to is taking away from what you've said. So communication is important, what we're saying, how it's being heard, and our ability to listen, to ask questions, to seek understanding, and for people to be sure that their perspective matters. It will be difficult for us to thrive in the workplace if we feel that we can be a one-man riot squad. No. So because that's the thing, if we're meant to be one person, then they won't have recruited other people. And then we could be the only employee in the organization. So communication is really key. You can't thrive, and I think it dovetails into the next thing we want to talk about in terms of relationship. It is so important for us to build a network. We can't be in a workplace where we don't understand where the power lies, so to speak. And you'd be surprised that the power might lie with someone's EA rather than the person that actually sits in that position. But we've gone to the place and looked at, oh, this person is just an EA. Excuse me, that's the person that is moving and shaking things. That's the person that would mention your name when they're having discussions where you are not. So do you know who is who? And who is not about the title. Who is about what are they able to influence? Because then the who is really dependent on what they're able to influence and who are the decision makers. So do we first of all recognize what those different roles are? And then are we building the network in a strategic manner? Are we looking to find common grounds? Do we understand what the interest of these people are? I find that thriving, we think that being technically sound is what is important, but being aware of what is important to the people that matter makes a lot of difference. So what conversations are we having with them? Are we having conversations that is able to help us build like common interactions? So this person likes football. Do you even know that they like football? Maybe you don't love football, but at least you know that, oh, this person is a Chelsea fan and Chelsea won the league the last time, or perhaps, you understand what I'm saying? So these kind of things are like conversation starters. And so the person feels a bit comfortable, and then you get into other things that are happening. So we need to look for like common ground, shared goals, build alliances, build collaboration. And then do they see you as the go-to person, like the problem solver? You find that some people, anything that is going on, they will hear. How would they know what is going on? Because people bring it to them. They don't need to go out to seek what is going on. It's because they know that when I come to you with something, You may not be the technical expert, but you help me weed through the clog, and I come out of the conversation with you clearer. So it's important for us to build relationships. We cannot thrive when people don't trust us. One, you can't thrive when they don't know you. I've been in industries where you'll be having evaluation meetings. The person is technically sound, and they'll say, but this person is not visible. Like you talk glowingly about this person, but I don't even know her. When I see her in the pool, she doesn't make an impression. So how am I? And what we need to know is that the decision-making will be beyond that your direct boss. So what impression do other people have of you? How reliable are we? You know, I don't want to bash us with scriptures, but it's important to be grounded in the scripture. You know, Proverbs 11:13 says, whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps a thing covered. Do they feel like you're a go-to person, like the person they can talk to about things that are going on? Not that you're at the grapevine, because that's also a problem where, oh, if there's any gossip, you're the one that they talk to. But in terms of how you show empathy, your kindness, your disposition to help your colleagues solve their problem. And it's a delicate balance between authenticity and adaptability. You know, the organization has its core values. And I say that the truth about it is, at the end of the day, when the organization says this is what we stand for, you have to check whether your values aligns with the values of the organization. And if it does not, the ability to thrive in that kind of environment may be a challenge. So those are the things you begin to check from the beginning. Are we aligned? The ethos of this organization, is it aligned to my values? So that there's even no struggle, you know, from the get-go. If we want to stay through, you know, true to ourselves, maintain our values and all, then that is important. And so if those things are aligned, then it's easier for us to adapt. It's easier for us to align. But when it's worlds apart, then there's a problem. You know, we have a problem on our hands. I think one important thing that I'd like to say also about thriving is this navigating politics. And for me, this is something that I'm learning. I'm still learning. I think that at some point, I was sort of failing in this area because it's all, you know, when you think like, but I'm doing great work. Excuse me, if you are doing great work and you're doing great work and the organization has, things have happened and gone away from you, what's the essence of it? You cannot thrive when you're not informed. You don't know what's going on in the organization. The dynamics are changing. The power structures are moving. And you're just keeping your head under the sand and saying, I'm technically sound. That's a problem from the get-go. So we need to understand how to be neutral, but not naive. So we're not taking sides. We're not the center of the conflict, but we know exactly what is going on. We know what the political landscape is. We know when things are shifting, how it's shifting, so that we're able to understand how to navigate in those climes. Because, you know, for a number of people, you start out your career maybe in a place where you're a bit shielded. So you're in a cocoon. And then you now go to I call it the real world. And then there's problem because you want to begin to play the same cards that you played in a place where it was all cocooned and covered and the structured. It doesn't work like that. So politics is part of life. Even in families, there's politics. Maybe we don't call it politics there. But at work, it is real. It is something that we need to be aware of. We need to understand how to navigate through that. We need to not be naive and think that it's going to just pass. These things are real. These things happen. And it is in understanding that where the power brokers are, where the decisions are being made, that is how we're able to know how to situate ourselves. So, and then I feel like another thing about thriving is being very aware of our personal growth and development. If we think that the organization is going to give us everything we need to be successful at our role, then we set ourselves up for failure. And so if we're saying that we want to thrive, the truth is we must be giving off excellence, like doing something different from every other person. And you cannot be doing the same thing that everybody else is doing and be expecting a different result. So you're already thinking a couple of steps ahead. This is what is going to be important for my next role. You're already equipping yourself for it. You're already finding out who are the people that are best in this area. You're building a relationship with them, understanding what it takes to be successful in your next role while you're in the current one, so that you already begin to equip yourself. So that also speaks a lot about emotional intelligence, understanding what is going on, seeing beyond what is, in plain sight. We have to have a growth mindset to thrive. We have to be a learning people, have a growth mindset, be a learning person, so that we continue to be relevant. Because everybody, at the end of the day, what we need to understand is the organization is going to do what is best for the organization. And you continue to be, important to the organization to the extent that you're relevant. The day you stop being relevant, you'll be amazed how things change very quickly. And so it is our responsibility. I always say that whatever you learn, no one can take it away from you. So that positive attitude to everything that we're given, every challenge, whether it's fair or not, we need to just wake up and smell the coffee. The world is not a fair place. That's what it is. So it is our attitude, how we approach everything that is thrown at us. And that is how people will feed us off. Feed off us. That's the energy we give. And then I'll round it up by talking about just self-care, taking care of ourselves, prioritizing our well-being, because we often get so engrossed in the work. I see people thinking that, what makes people successful here is the hours that you spend. The question is not about the hours. What are you delivering within those hours? Because you'll find someone that is not playing to that narrative, but is getting things done. Is getting the promotion. You are sleeping there every day. It's affecting your health, and you're not being rewarded for it. And we cannot give much of ourselves when we've run ourselves to the ground. So to thrive also is to know that you are important in this equation. And so you have to take care of yourself. You have to build around yourself a network of people that would also help you, so that when you're beginning to, run yourself to the ground, they're able to tell you, you need to stay ahead of this. And, I'll end it by just saying, so that we can take as many questions as possible, that you need to be positive and just maintain an attitude of there is no way that you are there that you will not succeed. I like to say everywhere that I go that the fact that I'm here, there has to be a solution. I bring solution. That's who I am. I'm light. We have to approach every role, everything that we're given to do, with an understanding of who we are and what we bring to the table. And that is not being, it's not bragging, because your results should also show what you're saying. In fact, it's more about your results than what you say. Because when people identify that you're able to deliver in a certain way, they want you to be on their team. And the truth about work is that good work brings more work. And many times when we're thinking about thriving, it seems like we're being cheated, because when you're good, everybody wants to bring their projects to you. They want you to be part of every team. And it just seems like, you're being stretched on all sides. But our attitude to that is important. Our attitude to that is critical, because ultimately it pays off. It pays off. I believe also that another thing that maybe our parents did, I think that people do it a bit differently now, is that we get ourselves so much into the work that we're not looking at what's my value in this industry. I believe that every couple of years, we should go and do interviews. Every couple of years, just explore what is available out there. It helps you be better at work, or to know what your worth is. And so when we're talking about thriving, you have to be on top of your business. We can't dig our heads in the sand and not be aware of what's going on and not take care of ourselves. So, self-care is important. Being a learning person, personal goal is critical. Being one that is giving to resolving conflict rather than being at the center of conflict is critical. Our ability to navigate the politics is very important. And then the balance between being authentic and adapting, very critical. How we're building relationships, identifying what those different stakeholders are and how to manage them is very important. And then what messaging are you giving off? Who are you? How do people describe you? If you are too quiet, they'll give you a name, and that's what the name that everybody will call you. If you are too loud, they'll give you so you have to lead on the narrative of who you are. You have to lead on how do they see you and who are you? And if anyone is saying anything negative, anything contrary to that, you have to find a way to correct it so that across the organization, there is consistency about who you are. They know where they can call you to, what tables you will sit at, and what you will say. People also have to be able to say, this is what you would say about a matter. So there is a consistency that is important. That's why you have to show up as yourself. Otherwise, you will give inconsistent messaging, and that's not thriving. So I just thought to touch on different things and open it up to conversation.
Thank you so much, Ma. It was a few minutes of really, really intense lessons. I just kept making my notes here. I think that for me, one of the most striking things that you just shared with us is leading the narrative on who we are. Because I mean, I fully agree that sometimes we can get so lost in the drama and all that is happening at work that we lose sight of who we are and the ability to build that consistency. A colleague was telling me a few weeks ago, he said, truth is consistent. It doesn't waver, you know? So when we lead from our own authentic self, we are able to establish who we are and we're able to really, really drive those conversations. For everyone listening, please drop your questions in the comment section. I would start the Q&A session from the part where you spoke about self-care, Ma. And the very first question in that area was, what are some practical tips on balancing professional growth with personal well-being? So if you have any thoughts on that area.
Yeah. So professional growth and personal well-being. The truth is, how do we develop ourselves professionally when we've not taken care of ourselves? You know, so I think that one must come before the other, really. So in terms of like personal well-being has to be at the forefront of everything. And I find also that once people know what is important to you, they sort of make allowance for you. I don't know if you've seen that if people see that, oh, this person is a gym body or something, or gym person, when they're fixing meetings and they know that, oh, that's your gym, we can't fix it for that day because Ebon will be in the gym. Now, it doesn't mean that then everything then becomes about the gym, but then people have to know what is important to you. And what happens also is at the end of the day, they would say, you would find people that will tell you, I admire the fact that you are consistent with going to the gym. It also speaks volumes about you in terms of your commitment to things, right? So we look at personal development like, oh, it's separate from, I think that they're very closely related because your ability to prioritize your personal care also indicates that you would have the discipline to know when you need to also prioritize your professional development. So you're saying, oh, at this point, and for this work that I'm doing, I think that I need to develop skills in this area. And then you don't let anything get in the way of it. So the same way that you are disciplined about your body is the same way that you'll be able to be disciplined about your professional development. So I think that at the end of the day, it's like a trait that will run across those areas. So when we talk about balancing it, it's really that they go hand in hand. And if you are not healthy, if you are not taking care of yourself, if you're tired, you have a headache all the time, how are you going to be effective at work? And then even talk about personal, which is like a next level about profession. Do you understand? So the two work hand in hand, and your ability to be able to do one consistently will pay off and would give you the discipline to do the other parts of it.
Thank you, Ma. I think if there's one thing that has been very consistent in all that you've been sharing today, it is understanding balance, knowing how to just juggle your balls wisely so that you're not missing out on the most important parts of yourself. There's a question here in the chat. It says, how should a Christian in the workplace respond to these two situations? So I think I'll just take them one by one. If you want to take both together, you want to take one, either way works. So the first scenario is your boss is doing something illegal or contrary to the company's values. And the second scenario is your workplace expecting you to embrace and even promote things that are not illegal, but are contrary to the word of God, for example, the LGBTQ inclusion. So the person wants to know how Christians should respond in situations like
this. Halloween, yeah. Very interesting. You see, the first one about your boss doing something illegal or contrary to the company's values, I think that the answer may not be so straightforward. And what it is your boss asking you to be part of this illegal, do you understand? Is your boss saying that if you also don't join me, then that's one, you have to make a decision. But if your boss is doing something illegal to the extent that you are not being asked to be part of it, I think that the weapon that we have here is prayer, where exposure will come eventually. Because you know what it is, if you get yourself into the crossfire, what will probably happen is that because the person is your boss, they'll get rid of you and you are not even able to correct these things. I always find that many times we shortchange ourselves in that by our actions, we don't even get an invitation to the table where we're then able to make the change, right? The change will only happen when you have a seat at the table. The question is, how are you going to behave till you get that seat on the table? Because when you then have the seat on the table, you're able to change the narrative. But if you've, and remember, we're always having the conversations around sheep in wolves' clothing. Once they know that, oh, this person is the things you do should stand you out as, these are my values, this is what I believe in. And I believe that because your boss knows who you are, and your boss also understands that I need this person, she does excellent work, but I will not involve her in my mess. And then you begin to pray so that the mess is either your boss changes or they move your boss or your boss is exposed. But many times we then, act in a way that we're not even able to deal with the issue anymore. Because if you are not there, the person continues to do this illegal thing. And then how does it change? So I think it's not a one size fits all in terms of the answer. But then we have to know, of course, if he's telling you go and do an illegal thing, then that one you have to make a decision. And then, embracing, remember what I said about values from the beginning. To the extent that your values are not aligned, we will continue to have all these issues. Like, oh, they're telling me to embrace this or promote that. That is why we need to check out organizations as we're going in there so that we can see whether there'll be things that are very critical to us that we cannot bend on. And so to that extent, it's not even a fit. The same way that the organization is checking whether you're a fit, you should also be checking whether the organization is a fit. And so that's the thing. And I understand also that we're working in diverse places where even in terms of the culture and all these things, you have to be sensitive. Yesterday, we were having a conversation about someone that I think he was disbarred or something. I don't know what they call it in the medical field because he went to pray for a patient. So you see what I'm saying about us working in places where the rules are different. Wherever you are working, you have to understand what the rules are. And if it's fundamental, you can be there. But even the Bible says, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. So are there other ways that, did you have to put your hand on the patient before the patient gets healed? You can pray for the person without putting your hand on the patient. And then the patient gets healed and then comes to talk to you about it and realizes that this could only have been something else other than medicine. And you're able to approach it in a different way. So honestly, we need to ask God for wisdom and discernment, because yes, there's so many of these things that we need to navigate as, you know, in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. I particularly found that very, very helpful. And there's something that Ade shared in the comment section, which I think is also very integral, that during interviews, we should also be interviewing the organization to be sure it's a right fit. You know, we should ask questions to really, really know what we're getting into. I want to take this conversation back to when you spoke about building relationships strategically. And I would like to ask, how can, especially for people who are in really, really large organizations, how can one find and maintain mentorship at a place of work? Mentorship or sponsorship, how can one find that, especially when your pool is really, really large? How do you navigate that to make sure that you're picking people who are a right fit for your own career goals? I mean, and sometimes with mentorship, these mentors might not even be people working in your field. So that's why I want us to look at it from an angle of you working in a multinational, for instance. How do you sustain something like that?
Yeah. The truth about mentorship or sponsorship is it's a means to an end, right? The reason why are we looking for a mentor is because maybe there's a goal that we have. And so we're thinking, oh, this person will help me towards achieving that goal. So the first thing is the clarity as to that goal. So I'm in this role currently. What I'd like to do next is this. Who in this organization has done it successfully? You may find that that person is not in your unit, it's somewhere else. You know, one of the things, because we like to use this whole mentorship thing and all, it's a give and take relationship. When you find that person, you need to research the person, find out about the person. What does the person do within the organization? Perhaps the person is being given some committee, something role, volunteer to work with. Do you understand? So that's part of that being strategic. Like, you have to give something to get something. I feel like many times when we're talking about mentorship, we're thinking really about what we want to gain rather than what we want to give. Because if you are helping the person deliver on their objectives, I feel like even asking for sponsorship, there'll be no need. The person becomes your advocate. The person is thinking, this new opportunity is coming up. I'm thinking of forming a team. I'm going to take IBK with me. Right? So one is that it's a means to an end. And then that goal has to be clear. And the clarity of the goal enables us to identify who would be a mentor, who would eventually be a sponsor. The other thing, and why the research is important also, is that you might find a person that you're saying, oh, this role or whatever is the kind of role I want to occupy. But is that person the kind of person you want to be like? If you don't check, you won't know. And you may be getting yourself into a trap. So is this person, because it's by doing that research that you now find out, oh, okay, yeah, this is the kind of person. Because the person may be one that wants to be the lone star. And so it's not taking you anywhere with them. And at the end of the day, you've set yourself up to be heartbroken because you feel, oh, I've given so much into, it's not paying off. It was never going to pay off because of the nature of the person. And the reason why it's not paying off and you find yourself in it is that you did not do your homework well. The other thing also is that we have an advantage. The Holy Spirit is our advantage. And many times I feel like we keep him out of work. We go to work and then come back and talk to him about how the day was. Yes, that's how my day was. And can you imagine that we have he will tell us this person, you see, out of these two, this is the person. She may not look like the right person now, but she's the one that is going somewhere. Or she's the one that when an opportunity comes up, she will mention your name. Or she's the one that would have time for you. This other person will not have time. So it's a number of things but the clarity as to what you're trying to achieve should be the first thing before you then start prayerfully identifying who that person is. And then I feel like we need to pour into that person first before you even start having a discussion about mentorship and sponsorship. In fact, the person will call you to say, what can I do I feel like there's more that you should be doing. Why aren't you thinking of this? Do you want to take this exam? The person will go and register for the exam and tell you, you need to take it by June. So that's what it is with mentorship and, like sponsorship.
Thank you very much, Ma. So should be clear on your goal, research the person, volunteer to work with them, and then the Holy Spirit is your advantage. Basically, let your results show that you are a valuable resource to the person. And like you said, sponsorship and mentorship should just, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, let's take it a bit deeper into navigating challenges and changes in the place of work. So especially with what we've seen from the era of COVID now, we've seen quite a lot of transitions job-wise. People have lost jobs. Some have had to take lower jobs. How do we handle setbacks in our career? How do we make sure that these setbacks do not really leave a permanent dent on our career growth? How do we stage a comeback that is really, really empowering for ourselves and others looking at us?
Yeah, I think it's our perspective and how we see everything in life, essentially, including setbacks. There was something that I feel like I knew, but the realizations just, when something just becomes like a knowing to you. And I started saying, things don't happen to me. They happen for me. And I started seeing it like happen over and over again. That scripture that says, if they had known, they would not have crucified many times. A lot of things that we think, this thing is going to be the end of me. A few years, a few months down the line, we begin to see, if I didn't come here, this wouldn't have happened. If I didn't have to take this job, which I thought wasn't the best fit, I would not have met this person. Was it on Sunday in church that, PT was saying that everyone that has spoken about their story of success has always spoken about men, people that God puts their way. God is not going to come down and jump and just say, okay, now he's going to use people. He's going to use the situation. He's going to use the circumstance. And so we have to see a setback as an opportunity. We have to see it as perhaps God is trying to push me into something. I find that often when we get comfortable, we stay there. God is saying, time is up, we'll stay, it's comfortable. And then God is like, this IBK, if I leave her here, she'll just stay here. Oh yeah, let things begin to happen. And then we start complaining. And we think it's a setback. But then 1 year down, you look back and you're like, oh, thank God it happened the way it did. I'm sure we have many stories of that, of situations that we thought would be the end of us, of times when we thought, oh, my career is over. How am I going to, navigate from where I am to where I'm going? It's always about our perspective. It's always about how, it's also a trust thing, right? Isn't it? At the end of the day, how trusting we are of the one that is navigating our path. How trusting we are that even this thing that seems like is bad will turn out for good. He says he will cause everything to work together for our good. Do we really believe it? Because that's what then shows in our staying down and saying, oh, woe is me. This is the end. It can never be better. How do we know that? Some of the things that I've seen God do lately, I'm just like, oh my God, it's like it's mind-blowing. Like in the twinkling of an eye, what God is able to do. And many times, it's not like we haven't seen it being done before. But then we forget, and then we read about the children of Israel and the Israelites, and we're saying, oh, these people, they were very stubborn and they never remember. We're just like them. We just move very quickly. So I think it's really about us knowing that setbacks are not, if failure is for us to learn, for us to say, this is not going to happen again. I always like to, even when the situation is difficult, as I'm groaning and mourning, I'm like, God, what do you want me to learn here? Because you would not have put me here if there was nothing for me to learn here that is critical to my journey. So you can imagine us taking every setback as there's something critical to my journey here. In fact, what happens also is your attitude baffles people. They wonder how you're so joyous and joyful. How are you chirpy about this thing that you should be squeezing your face all the time? So it's us asking, what is it, God, that you want? If we believe that anything that happens to us, he must allow it, then what is it that you want me to learn here? This is not, and it's okay it's not comfortable. I don't like being here. I don't want to be here. It's okay to say those things. I don't want to be here, but since I'm here, why don't we make the best of it? And then why don't we not make it too long? God, it's okay. Let's move quickly. So, that's what I feel with setbacks. I don't think that a setback is meant to keep us there forever. It's meant to prune us and get us ready for the next thing. God is saying that next thing, there's still a preparation that is required here. Sometimes it's hiding us. It's hiding us. Perhaps there's a mass retrenchment that is going on. Then it puts us in a corner where we're not even seen. And then the retrenchment happens and key positions then come up. And it's the people that are left that they have to put there. So you go from being a team member to leading a division. God is able to. What can God do? What can't he do?
Thank you, Ma. As you were speaking, I just remembered one of the final things you said when you started the conversation, where you were talking about a positive mindset, where you had said, I cannot be here and not succeed. And then now you're talking about things don't happen to me, they happen for me. So moving from a victim mentality to a victor mentality, regardless of what comes our way. Thank you very much, Ma. When we were talking about personal growth, you had spoken about what we learn cannot be taken away from us. You had also spoken about us being our own advocates, like be your own advocate. Now, I just want to ask this question as a graduate fresh out of school who is looking to, advance in career. How can I advocate for myself in my place of work? I mean, I know that we have LinkedIn, but let's assume that people I work with are not even on LinkedIn. How can I advocate for myself and get myself to the people who really matter, to the people who should know my name? How can I set myself apart in my organization?
I think it has to start first from even your core, like what you're doing, your role within that team. How are you doing there? Because what would happen is that the way you work within that team leaves an impression for your team members. And remember that your team members or maybe your team leads have conversations. Bosses discuss their team members. Oh, this guy, I can't do without him. He's amazing. He's a star guy, he's a star performer. This is a star performer. I can't do without him and all that. So the first thing is just diligence in the whatever, that's whatever you find yourself doing, do it well. That's one. Then I see Adejoke putting visibility here. You're new. You're just starting out. People, you want them to know you. But the only way that they will know you is by your work, really. By assignments that they give to you, how you do it. By you volunteering to do things when the opportunity comes up. That also sets you apart, right? So when they're saying, oh, we're looking for someone to do volunteer. Before you said the graduate thing and you started saying, how do I set myself apart? You want to be in this industry. There are no jobs. Go and volunteer. They don't need to pay me. Let me go every day. What is going to cost you is the transport. Find someone to help you. Tell the person, can you just pay my transport to go there every day? Can you imagine going there every day and you are just you just ask them, I just want an opportunity to serve. While you're serving, you're observing. While you're serving, they're observing you. When an opportunity comes up, your name, you have a share of mind. You'll be the first person that they will call on. So many times it's not and I really want us to not think that it's something that, because sometimes I find that even the workplace can be a bit of a dog eats dog. I'm so like calculated and all. Do what you do consistently. Do it well. When you're called upon to talk about what you have done, be bold and confident. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because it is in making mistakes that you will learn. Don't hide. Present your work. Be proud to talk about your work. And that is the way that they would know that if I gave this little thing to this young man and he did it so well, let me try and give him more. But if we're so focused on, oh, I want to get ahead, and what you're doing, they're not even saying you're excellent at it. I don't know about that getting ahead. So I feel like it's step by step. One thing leads to another, and to the next. So as you're talking visibility, or you're thinking, oh, this is the next thing I would really like to do, then you volunteer, you go there, you tell them you want to be part of what they're doing. You want visibility with a certain exec, and the exec has a project, go and volunteer and be part of the project. So those are the things. We also have to lead ourselves, and we have to be responsible for ourselves, right? And so those are the ways to do it. The other thing is, if we find someone that we think has done well, we can learn at the feet of the person. And that's, like going back to that mentorship, have conversations with the person to understand how they did what they did, how they became successful, so that we can also, try those things out. But especially when you're starting out, don't be afraid to make mistakes or to try, or to, some of the most successful people are risk takers, people that are just like, failure doesn't keep them down, and errors, they're just like, wipe it off, move on to the next. You're just wondering, what kind of people are this? They just move on. Like, I'm not going to let that hold me down. So yeah, I believe that that's what it is. Being diligent, do what we do it consistently, ensure that we're visible, we're confident, and, raise your hands up when there's an opportunity to do something. Yeah.
Thank you, Ma. And while we're still looking at this topic, I want to now ask about, for people who are already working, but now they want to transition into newer roles, newer career opportunities, things they've never really done before. Do you have any tips for them? Or do you think that these same tips I just shared for an entry-level person can also be applicable to them?
Well, it could be, but I think that you'd probably also have to do other things, because maybe I know that some clients are more like certification, all that heavy, right? So it's also part of like doing the research to find out what is needed in that space, right? What's needed? What are they looking at? So my sister does this whole like getting you ready on LinkedIn, like CVs and all that. And one time she was telling me about some search optimization, this. So she was telling me about it. And sometimes just sitting down and checking like vacancies, like, or maybe job ads, right? And the job ads will tell you what they're looking for in that role. Put yourself against that. How do you match up? Where are the gaps? What are you going to do to move from where you are to filling that gap? Because if you're going to be applying for that role, so yes, we're talking about transitioning, all that, you have to be able to situate it. This is what I would like to do. Now, based on what you would like to do, what are the requirements for what you like to do? Given the requirements and where you are at now, where are the gaps? What are the steps to filling those gaps? And then you have an action plan and you follow through with it. Also, while you're doing that, you're engaging with people that are in that space. so that maybe they can point you to the right things. Maybe there are associations or things, maybe there are meetings that they have, seminars, you know, there are different things. Is while you sit there that you get a tip, oh, perhaps I can do this. And what also happens is you begin to see how you bring a different perspective to a role that you think, oh, they're doing, but you're saying that if I do this, I'm actually going to do it better than the people that are there because of this experience that I've gained. So it helps you sell yourself better. When they're saying, oh, why should we give you this job? You don't have experience in this space. Then you tell them, you know, actually, I thought about that, but I think that the value that I would bring is even more, given the experience I've had in so space, and then you are able to begin to articulate what you will bring to the table, given your experience. So we can't, it's not going to just happen to us. We have to do the work. Where are we going? Where are the gaps? How do I fill the gaps? And then what are these maybe complementary or transferable skills that I have that I need to begin to talk about and that I need to be confident about? So even if I'm going for an interview in a role that I don't have, by the time I talk, they're thinking there's something about this guy. So that's the thing. I think it's just a bit more work that we need to do, especially when you're experienced and all. And then we have the experience to do that, which is different from someone that is just starting out. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ma. This is the best use of my Saturday today. Thank you so much. Because of the diverse nature of this community, I want to ask a question now from the angle of a multinational leader, a company owner, or people who are being called in that area. How can organizations support employees from diverse backgrounds to reach their full potential within their organization? Now, this is an all things being equal conversation, meaning that the companies have employees who are willing to put in the work to succeed. How can the organizations themselves support these employees?
You know, ultimately, organizations need people. Now, the people should essentially be at the forefront of what the organization is doing, because they would not achieve their objectives without the people. So in terms of supporting like your employees to be successful, is at the end of the day, seeing how each employee fits into the overall, or what that person is bringing to the table. What we must understand also is that, especially when the organization is large, resources are limited. Organizations will put more into employees that they want. They know that there's a future. This is a talent. So how organizations support employees also, at the end of the day, we have to know that the organization is thinking, is this person going to help me further the achievement of my goal? And then based on that, the organization is saying, these are the different areas that I need to expose this person to, so that the person is a well-rounded leader. So organizations that understand how to manage people are more proactive in managing talent. But what we also have to, and that's why we have to be a talent for us to be managed, because if you're not a talent, nobody's going to be managing you. Yeah. So organizations manage talent. And so what it is identifying, oh, this is a talent. Now giving this talent, it's the same thing that I spoke about when I said for the individual, you are doing an assessment where the organization is also looking at the individual and saying, if I see this person as vice president in the next 5 years, what are the things that the person needs to do to make VP? Oh, the person has skills in this area. We need to expose this person to finance. And so they move the person. So you find that organizations that do people management very well are proactive in managing talent, to the extent that they make sure that they provide the opportunities for you to develop the skills and the competencies that you need to succeed. So it's having like a holistic development plan and working with you, identifying from time to time what are the areas for development, and providing the exposure, the training for you to develop, because they know that ultimately you will benefit the organization. So yes, that organization managing us is that we also have to be talent. So they want to manage, you know, they want to manage us. Yes.
Thank you so much, Ma. We have come to the end of the webinar. I'm just trying to see if there's still going to be any last minute questions, but I am really, really thankful today. My notes are so extensive. Thank you so much for taking out the time, Ma. I think like the central thoughts in all that you've been saying, at least for me, the central thoughts that I've just been picking is being balanced, being result oriented. Like our results must show that, because we have to be a talent worth being managed, for anyone to actually put that much investment in us. Thank you so much for taking out the time here today. I don't think there's any other question coming in, so we'll just be ending the webinar now. If this has been a good use of your time, can you please just tell Pastor Ebu thank you in the comment section? Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you also, everyone. Please feel free to exit the call. We have now come to the end of this webinar.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Really lovely time. Thank you.